Hello YouTubers, this is the Noobifier, and welcome to the second installment of the weapon series, Size 2 Energy Weapons. Just a note before we begin, this information is as accurate as I could research as of today, the 5th of March 2016. Like everything else in Star Citizen, it is completely subject to change and balance. It's important to understand what the stats mean so we can best select the right weapon for the role. The rate of fire. The rate of fire is how quickly the weapon can cycle. It's commonly known as rounds per minute or RPM. Damage. Damage is the numerical value in hit points that the weapon does against the target. Calculating the rate of fire and damage will output a new rating called damage per second. Depending on how precisely you're able to aim, simply opting for the weapon with the best DPS may not be the correct choice for you. The range. Range represents the distance where the projectile stops being able to damage the target effectively. Speed. The speed is commonly known as the muzzle velocity of the projectile. Having a slower muzzle velocity will mean that you need to lead further in advance of the target. This manifests in-game as a longer pip offset. This greater angle requires more precision from the pilot. Selecting the right weapon for the task is important, but you have to take into consideration your personal skill and the limitations of the craft you plan to pilot. In the same order as last time, welcome to your Size 2 energy weapons. The Class N Werner CF117 Badger Laser Repeater. It has a DPS of 247, which is 158% stronger than the Size 1. It has a reduced rate of fire of 500 RPM. It has an increased range of 3125. It has a reduced velocity of 2500, and it comes with a much stronger energy damage of 29, which is 170% over the Size 1. It has a cost of 1200 rec and 12,000 UEC. The Size 2 gets a nice bump up from the Size 1. It has a better range over its Size 1 counterpart, and the DPS is also much beefier. The A&R Omni 6 Laser Cannon. The Size 2 got a huge DPS boost to 258. The rate of fire got dropped to 160. The range increased to 2977, the velocity was dropped to 1985, and the damage went way up to 97. It cost 1600 rec and 16,000 UEC. This Size 2 also got a big bump up from the Size 1. However, the drop in velocity hurt the gun quite a bit. It does have a better range, but because the velocity was dropped, it's actually very difficult to take advantage of that buff. This Size 2 Omni hits hard but behaves quite differently than its Size 1 sibling. The Bearing M4A Laser Cannon. The Size 2 version of this weapon got a pretty marginal DPS improvement of 192, which is only 114% over the Size 1. The rate of fire dropped to 180, the range dropped to 1950, the velocity dropped to 2600, and the energy damage went up but only by a little bit to 64, which is only an improvement of 120%. The weapon costs 800 rec and 8000 UEC. This step up to Size 2 is the most disappointing so far. It cycles slower, it has a reduced range, and the muzzle velocity is slower. The reason this makes no sense is because the weapon is only 128% stronger than its Size 1 counterpart. And finally, the Max Ox N14 Neutron Cannon. The Size 2 gets a nice bump in DPS to 241. The rate of fire drops to 60, the range drops to 720, the velocity drops to 1600, but the energy damage goes way up to 241, which is an improvement of 174%. It costs 1600 rec and 16,000 UEC. This weapon got a massive bump and hits like a mule. With that increase, these weapons are very heavy hitting. I tried them out as suggested by a subscriber. I had fun, but they're still too weird for me to recommend them. Super short, super slow, and very strong. So here are my final recommendations for the Size 2 energy weapons. The N14 is much better than the N13, but it's still really odd. They're very strong, but very weird. They overheat instantly and there's no margin for error. The pip offset is very large and you need to be practically co-located with the enemy. Sorry guys. I tried them as you suggested, I still can't recommend them. The Badger was the only weapon that jumped to Size 2 without changing very much. It's easy to see why it's such a popular choice. Both of the laser cannons got stronger but at a cost. They're both still awesome weapons, but the Omni is a clear choice between the two. The stats don't lie. It's a little bit disappointing. This one's actually really easy. If you're looking for the best Size 2 energy weapon, grab a CF117 Badger. If you'd prefer a cannon, grab a Size 2 Omni. The guide is a great way to get up to speed, but at the end of the day, you need to spend some rec and test out what you like. My thanks go out to the patrons who support this channel. To date, we've had 4 successful ship giveaways because of your support. Stay tuned for more videos in this series. I'm working on Size 3 Energy next. If you like my no bullshit format, please tell a friend or orgmate that's just starting out about my channel. My goal is to grow, and I can't accomplish that without subscribers like you. Thanks, and I'll see you in the verse.